The headliner, everybody's headliner, is of course up in Columbus, Ohio. It's the game that Coach Corso will be at for his final iteration on College Game Day. It is the Texas Longhorns, number one in the land in the AP poll, visiting the Ohio State Buckeyes, number three in the land in the AP poll. Julian Sayin versus Arch Manning. If you look at the coaches poll, Garrett, they're 1-2 in the coaches poll. This is the first time ever that we've gotten 1 versus 2 in a major poll in a season opener. And it's a matchup of two teams that we think should be good. We think should be more than good. We think they should be great. But if you look at the rosters and you haven't been paying attention this offseason, that's okay. We're glad you're here now. But if you haven't been paying attention, if you're just tuning back into college football, you look up and down these rosters and it's going to look extremely different than what you saw in the Cotton Bowl in the semifinal last year. Ohio State is 101st in returning production, according to Bill Connolly at ESPN. Texas is just a little bit behind that at 103rd. Ohio State, a lot of brand new in the coaching box as well. They have Brian Hartline getting promoted, longtime assistant there, ace recruiter, getting a shot to be the offensive coordinator for the first time. And Matt Patricia, former Detroit Lions head coach, I think was with Bill Belichick and with the Patriots. Longtime NFL coach, now going to be the defensive coordinator for the Buckeyes as they lose Jim Knowles to Penn State. But all that being said, all the eyes are on the quarterbacks in this one. Arch Manning, the long-awaited debut as the full-time starter for the Texas Longhorns. Julian Sayin, number one quarterback in the class right after Arch, getting his first shot at the starting lineup for Ohio State. There could be a lot of fireworks in this one, Garrett, and I think a lot of people might be disappointed if they're expecting an absolute shootout. But what are you expecting in this one? What are some things that you feel like you know as we go into a game with so many unknowns?
Yeah, that's the hard part is this game is really going to be so unexpected, right? You ask yourself for both of these teams. Could both of these teams win the whole thing this year? Yeah. They both have the talent. They both have the guys to do it. Could both of these teams maybe fail to reach expectations? Yeah, that's possible because we just don't know who some of these guys are. So trying to guess this one is basically just having like a dude off, right? Where you're just like, hey, which dudes do I think I understand can hit the ground running from the word go, right? Because we're not trying to decide which team has the better roster. We're not trying to decide which team has the better coaching. We're saying which team has been able to use their offseason the best to get all these new faces and new pieces and some returning ones up to speed so that when they start playing football and that ball starts on the kickoff, we understand, hey, it's time to go, right? For me, to talk about the quarterbacks to start, I think they're both going to be pretty good. I don't know if both of them are going to be there in game one. I think we're probably going to see some mistakes, probably going to see a couple of like missed reads or like maybe a bad decision, interception type of thing. I know that they're going to be good over the course of the season. I just don't know how good they're going to be, again, at the word go. This is by far the biggest game that either of them will have ever started. We just don't know what's going to happen between their ears, right, when it starts, right? Practice is great. Some smaller games are great. Mop-up duty is great. But what's happening between your ears when it's the first quarter and you got to come out there and execute your first opening drive, right? We just don't know what's going to be going through either of their heads. I'm a little bit nervous about that Texas offensive line working together. It's a lot of new faces. It's a lot of talent, but it's a lot of new faces who, look, they're trying to get it together in a hostile environment, right? This is not an easy place for an offensive line to try to break in and gel, right? Talent is one thing. Cohesion is a very different thing. And so for me, watching that Texas offensive line, see how they kind of get to be in those road graders that the line was last year, seeing if they can kind of keep that pace is going to be an interesting one for me to kind of watch here and see if they can keep Arch upright and keep that offense rolling. I'm a little bit nervous about Ohio State. I have OSU written down. Ohio State. Nervous about Ohio State's defensive scheme because they've got a new defensive coordinator, right? Matt Patricia, he's the DC. He's good, but getting 11 guys on the same page is not easy, right? All it takes is one safety forgetting which quarter he's supposed to be in. All it takes is one guy forgetting he's supposed to drop in coverage when he's supposed to, go a little bit further up and stay pressed. All it takes is one thing, and then you got, Texas receivers running past you, right? That's not what you want if you're Ohio State. So for both of these teams, they have things that I'm a little bit concerned about. For me, the big X factor here is actually going to be home field. I think that having home turf in this game is going to be a big deal for Ohio State. They both have inexperienced quarterbacks. I'd much rather break in my quarterback at home. and not have him be in that kind of tough environment to start off the game. I think it's going to come down to just the guys with experience on both sides stepping up, right? You got guys on, the defensive side for Texas, a Colin Simmons, right? Ant Hill. It's going to be them trying to step up and be those guys to lead the defense. I think on the other side, Ohio State just has more of those players. Right now, for me, the big X factors on the offensive side for Ohio State, Carnell Tate and Max Clare kind of just winning their battles is going to be super critical, because if they're able to pull a little bit off of, the coverage and kind of pull it to their side of the field, it lets Jeremiah Smith run free, and that's what we're looking for. So for me, I don't really know which way this one's going. I'm pretty torn on this one. I've gone back and forth, but I think right now, I think Ohio State scores just a little bit more, makes a couple more opportunities than Texas. It converts a couple more of those opportunities. I'm going to pick them to cover the 1.5 right now. Win by, I would say, 3 or 4. I could see this thing ending up like 24-20 or something like that.
I wrote down 23-17,
Yeah.
and I'm on Ohio State as well to spoil the pick here. You mentioned Carnell Tate. He's an absolute X factor, because if you think back to that Cotton Bowl last year, the Texas defensive staff and their defensive players did a great job keeping Jeremiah Smith in check. I think he had 1 catch for 3 yards in that game, but flip side of that was Carnell Tate went absolutely nuclear, and that's just the luxury that you
He had a
have
good game.
when I think they do have the best collection of offensive skill talent, running backs, receivers, tight ends in the entire country. I don't think that that's really that much debatable at this point. Alabama might have something to say about that. There's a couple other teams that are going to be up there as well, but I think Ohio State has the best collection of offensive skill talent in the country. It's just an embarrassment of riches over there. I will say I already spoiled my pick, but when I go back and forth on things, I like to make a pros and cons list. And that's what I did for these 2 quarterbacks stepping into this situation. Arch's pros are he, of course, has the pedigree, and we're all banking on that last name of Manning, it seems like. He has a little bit of in-game experience, and he has the coordinator and play caller continuity. Steve Sarkisian is going to put him in a position where if he can execute the offense, I think Steve Sarkisian is going to call a good game. I trust him to do that at this point. The cons are he doesn't have a lot of experience around him. You hinted that on the offensive line. It's also at the receiver positions.
Mm-hmm.
These are guys that I said this in the Texas preview, but these are guys that have been on the team, have made big plays in spots, but they've not been the guy on their team. They have not had to step up and be the wide receiver 1, be the wide receiver 2. Oh, and they're going to be without the transfer wide receiver from Stanford, Emmett Mosley. It looks like he's going to be banged up, might not get to play in this one too. They're kind of banking on him to be a big part of this offense too. So they're going to be a little bit handicapped there, and they're breaking in a ton of new players on the offensive line and at the receiver positions. For Julian Sayin, it's almost flipped. Like I said, he probably has the best collection of skill talent in all of college football, but no experience, no continuity at the offensive coordinator position. He does have Ryan Day, and I think Ryan Day's fingerprints are going to be all over this offense, of course. But the thing I keep coming back to is we've seen Arch Manning play, and we've seen some big moments from him. Texas as a whole, we just haven't quite seen them get over that last hump. And that last hump is the games against Georgia last year, finding a way to win one of those games when you're at home or in a neutral site. Finding a way in a winnable Ohio State game last year, right? That was played in Arlington. They just haven't found a way to get over that hump against that next tier of teams, the Ohio State, the Georgia. I know they beat Alabama a couple of years ago, but that was a pretty flawed Alabama team at that point in the season.
Sure.
So they just haven't found a way to get over that hump for these elite of the elite of the elite teams. And until I see that happen, especially on the road, I'm going to roll with Ohio State. So write in, let us know what you think. Gary, if you have any more thoughts on this game, we don't have to transition away to that quickly, but
no, I was going to say, the big thing for me on this one is I don't want to really come down super hard on either of these teams.
Sure,
because
yeah.
if they play this game week 6 or week 8, I'm probably very, very different on this game, because I think that the thing that, if you're a Texas fan and you're hearing us just rag on Tech, we both went Ohio State on this one. A lot of it just comes down to what we can trust right now and some of the intangibles around college football, right? Like I was talking about home field advantage, right? You're talking about like in-game experience and like, some of the pieces around him. come, week 6, week 8, that's going to be a very different storyline for Texas. And so we're saying maybe they don't start super fast, but like they could turn this into 11-1 where their only loss is the opening week against Ohio State on the road. There's nothing wrong with that. You're still a team that can win the national championship in that situation. I think the one thing that I want to keep reiterating is like, look, Arch Manning is probably going to be a fantastic quarterback, but he's still like, this is still his first like big start where he's really getting a chance against a big team to take the reins and say, yeah, this is my team, like, let's go. And there's not a whole lot of help around him. There's good, talented players, but there's not like for
Not a
example,
lot
for
of
Sayin,
proven help. They
right?
they
Like
could
for
step
Sayin,
up
he gets
and
to throw it to the best receiver in college football, right? That's awesome if you're Julian Sayin. Arch Manning doesn't really have that. Like he's got talented receivers, he's got very good receivers that could step up and become one of the best receivers in college football, but he just doesn't have that guy right now, right? And maybe we're going to be talking about one of these guys, becoming the man the same way that we did with, Matthew Golden last year. Like he was a big time player down the stretch who'd go up and get anything you threw at him. That guy might be on the team, but we didn't know about him week 1. Not like that. We didn't think that week 1 Golden was going to be that guy. Right now you have to figure that out week 1. And if you go out there and you're playing in the shoe and it's 14-0 because you get punched in the face off the rip, then it's time to rally. And if Texas can go down and rally, great, but that's also just part of college football, right? It's also just part of, you might be running into a buzzsaw. I don't think that's the case. I think they'll keep it close. I think it'll be relatively low scoring. We both kind of picked it in the low 20s for the winning score, but again, like I just think it's one of those things where when you have a brand new cast of characters, right? And there's so many new people on this team stepping into new roles. Like you have to pump the brakes just a little bit, not for the whole season, just for week 1.
that's well said. And I think the one other position group that is replacing a lot of talent is that defensive interior.
Mm-hmm.
And if Ohio State gets going running the ball, I know Ohio State has some new running backs too, but those guys are really talented. They are guys that have proven it at the FBS level. In the case of C.J. Donaldson at coming over from West Virginia, so
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be a vulnerability for Texas. I know
Well,
that they were highly touted transfers and they filled that room in really well, but are they at the level that they were last season with those guys that are now pushing for starting roles in the NFL as
and,
rookies?
and I think all of their jobs get easier because of Colin Simmons. Obviously, like he's gonna
Sure.
take attention. But the big question there is like, okay, like I've seen the comparisons. Like Colin Simmons is like the new Myles Garrett, right? Like everyone's talking about how he's looking like that, playing like that. He's that kind of dominant. Well, if you go and you watch some of the tape of Myles Garrett in college, there are a lot of times he'd get double and triple teamed and held and just no calls. So like Texas fans, get ready. When you got the best edge rusher, that's going to happen sometimes. But also, you got to go find your Deshaun Hall, right? Where he's the guy on the other side who can also make noise and win his one-on-one because the other guy, Colin Simmons in this case, is taking so much attention away, right? You can have that player, but like somebody's got to step up and be that level of dominant so that, you can't just sit there and double and triple, Colin Simmons the entire game. So like everyone's job is going to get easier because of it, but it's going to be on them to step up and deliver with all that extra attention that Simmons is going to get.
Yeah, that's a good point. And listen, this is going to be a fun one. We're going to learn a lot about both of these teams. We're going to see who has that it factor to rise up and win a close game. I think this is going to be a very
And,
close, hard fought, difficult game.
yeah.
And we as a college football universe are going to very much overreact to that game
Oh
because
yeah.
all the takes I saw out of week 0 were crazy overreacting. And you said it best, man. I think neither one of these teams is going to be eliminated if they lose from national championship contention, but we could
Mm-hmm.
see some flaws that are concerning from this game. And if those
I
flaws aren't addressed as the season goes along, it could be very difficult for these teams.
I am so prepared for the over sensationalizing that is coming from like the
Arch
big
will either
media
be
outlets.
Arch will either be the greatest quarterback of all time or the biggest bum of all time,
Oh
depending
yeah,
on if he
it's
wins this
I
game or
can't wait for
loses.
the on 3 graphic where it says like busted and it's just a picture of Arch when they lose because like he threw a pick on the like he threw it to Caleb Downs. Bummer. Okay, he's gonna get his. It'll be that kind of situation where the on 3 will have the big busted graphic and then ESPN will be like, is Arch Manning the biggest failure in his family? And you're just like, okay, let's take a big step back and realize like he didn't put those expectations on him. You did. Like, it was the media that put the expectations on him. So when he wasn't an automatic Heisman candidate, like, that's not his fault, right? This is still like his first season being the guy. Let's give him a little bit of a break. And if he comes out there and wins, like, congratulations. I hope that Ohio State's as good as we think they are. If they turn into like a 9-3, 8-4 type of team because it turns out they're not that good, we could be overreacting towards Texas as well. So
like we did
it's
against
going to be
Michigan
fun to
last
watch.
year.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to have fun watching this game. Whoever wins this should feel some pride. But either way, let's not overreact, positive or negative, towards Texas or Ohio State, right? We can't do that. Let's take a deep breath and let's enjoy the other 11 games of the regular season.
Nah, man, it's a 1-game season. It's going to be over, or
It's
we're
this or
crowning a
nothing,
national
man.
champion on Saturday. Well, write in. Let us know, guys. Let us know your score prediction down in the comments on this YouTube video here or on the tweet as we tweet this out as well.